Coming up in the news, airlift re-established between Grand Bahama and Canada. Also, the national flag carrier back in the Florida market. And we have the order of entry for the 2019 New Year's Day Junkanoo Parade. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Rolf-Arkeson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news this evening, a sign of hope and recovery for the island's tourism industry as Sunwing resumed weekly flights out of Toronto, Canada this past weekend. The air service is the first international flight to arrive on Grand Bahama post-Hurricane Dorian. And as Italia tells us, passengers on board received a grand welcome from stakeholders in the industry. It was a joyous occasion as some 189 visitors deplaned the Sunwing flight from Canada. Guests received a warm welcome from a large number of government and private officials at the Grand Bahama International Airport. Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, and the Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, the Honorable Iram Lewis, say the flight delivers a positive injection to the island's tourism sector.
We've come a long way. This has taken a lot of work between the Ministry of Tourism, the airport. It has really been a lot of work in putting this together. So we're very pleased to see this flight come in. We're very pleased to see the passengers. They're also going to Club Fortuna, which is a renovated hotel here in Grand Bahama.
With respect to the economy, this is our first batch of tourists, international visitors that will come and will spend money into the economy. So this is indeed a very big day for us in Grand Bahama, and this is going to serve as motivation to the world that while we are struggling, we are still open for business.
Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable K. Peter Turnquist, says the airport may not be what Grand Bahamians are used to, but it is efficient and will serve its purpose. He adds that it was important for the government to ensure that the airport was up and running, as tourism is the country's #1 industry.
This will facilitate the re-employment of hundreds, if not thousands, of Bahamians in that sector. Not only in direct tourism in respect to the hotels, but all of the allied industries that support that sector. And so this is critically important for us in a red letter day. We're very happy that Sunwing is expressing its confidence and support of Grand Bahama Island in bringing this flight back so early. We look forward to the resumption of the other international carriers as well as the domestic carriers.
President of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, Ian Rolls, says it took a lot of effort to get the airport up and running.
Yesterday, although it seems seamless, there were a lot of things happening behind the scenes, certain challenges, but working together, we proved that we can overcome the challenges that existed.
Now, these visitors say they are excited to be in Grand Bahama.
Always been a dream of mine to come to the Bahamas, and my best friend and I were looking for a place to go before Christmas. So with her 2 sons, who are my godsons, and we found this great deal. So we headed on down.
And do you like what you've seen so far?
I really like what I've seen so far. I don't think I've ever had such a good welcome as the band that greeted us and the row of people that welcomed us and shook our hands. It was really lovely.
It's my first time in the Caribbean and first time in Bahamas.
Why did you decide to come here to Freeport?
Well, first it was, we were thinking about Cuba, but this is much better in terms of foods and hospitality.
Now, flights by Sunwing will continue until April of next year. Italia Hall, ZNS Network News. Well, General Manager at the Ministry of Tourism, Stephen Johnson, watched as the Sunwing flight touched down on Grand Bahama. He says he was simply elated to see the return of airlift to this island.
Next week, we're going to have a flight coming from Montreal, a flight coming from Toronto. This will take place until, this will happen until the end of April. And we're really happy just to have heads in beds. So a great feeling. And this is the start of something big for Grand Bahama. And we're really happy and blessed.
Now, he says the ministry is in the process of putting together programs for guests to enjoy.
And to see the beauty of Grand Bahama, you know, whether it be diving, fishing, Experience all we have at a fish fry, our vendors, our shopping, our people.
Well, the Grand Bahama International Airport is now officially open to the public. Operators Hutchison Whampoa and the Grand Bahama Port Authority took a lot of flack from the public for the delay in getting the airport up and running. Well, since then, many have endorsed a suggestion that the government purchase the airport for the good of the tourism sector. Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable KP Turnquest, says that the government is exploring all of the options.
This is a critical piece of infrastructure for the island, and so we must ensure that it is up to the standard that we as residents expect, as well as our international guests need and the airlines need in order to ensure safety and efficiency. And so nothing is off the table at the moment.
Now, with hundreds of visitors expected to travel to this northern island, some have questioned what the role of the Grand Lucayan property will be.
The other smaller resorts are open and are operating, so all of these will be able to feed from this service. With respect to the Lucayan deal, it continues to be progressing, and we anticipate and hope that we'll have a closure on that relatively soon. It's a lot of work, unfortunately. It's a complicated deal, but we do expect to have a successful resolution to that very soon.
And some more good news for the tourism sector on Grand Bahama. This morning, Bahamas Air resumed non-stop flights to and from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The first flight by the airline since Hurricane Dorian. Some 35 passengers boarded the 9:30 a.m. flight, including government and Bahamas Air officials, along with members of the media. Once in Fort Lauderdale, the group was greeted by the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, who expressed gratitude for the return of the national flag carrier, adding that Grand Bahamians contribute significantly to the Florida market. Switching gears now, the Grand Bahama business community is adding its voice to the debate regarding a proposed minimum wage increase in the country. The government is looking to raise the minimum wage in the public sector to at least $300 a week, but the government says further dialogue is needed before an increase for the private sector can be considered. Well, tonight, the president of the chamber gives his views on this issue. Megan Shepard has this story.
President of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, Greg LaRota, weighing in on the proposed increase in minimum wage for the public sector. LaRota notes that as it relates to the private sector here on the island, he believes that now is not the appropriate time, as many businesses are already struggling to pay their employees at the current minimum wage rate.
Given the status of small and medium-sized businesses on the island of Grand Bahama, with most of them struggling just to get back in operations and keep their doors open, this is not an opportune time to introduce an increase in minimum wage on the island. Now, I know in terms of employees, that may not be something that they would like to hear, but I feel our focus now should be more around getting small businesses back up and running, getting more persons back on the job, actually working.
LaRota adds that he believes, for the most part, that a minimum wage rate was designed for those entering the workforce.
The intent, I believe, is to establish a minimum amount that employers should be paying to entry-level employees. I don't think the intent of minimum wage was really to make it legal to pay someone who's supporting a family $210 a week. Once you enter the workforce, if you enter at a entry-level job where it attracts minimum wage, the expectation would be that after you've been there for a while and demonstrated your level of competency, that you would over time continue to get increases.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.